Now we can start chapter 12.5, and this section is about triple integrals. Let's recall the things that we learned up to now. And in calculus 1, we talked about a single integral of a single variable function, something like this: integral of f of x dx from a to b. Now in this particular case, my domain is an interval. Now last week we talked about double integrals. Here we have a function with two variables, x and y, and now our domain D was on the xy plane. So this is our domain D. It's on the xy plane. And in this case, we have an area element dA. Now dA can be equals to dy dx or dx dy. Okay. So in this section, we are going to consider a triple integral Now our function depends on three variables, x, y, and z. Now instead of dA, now we have a volume element dv, and our volume element dv is in the domain E. Now this domain E is a solid. It's a solid in 3D. Okay. It's a solid in 3D, and this is our volume element. This is our volume element dv. Okay. Now first we are going to consider a special case. Now in this case, our domain is it's a rectangular box. It's a rectangular box in 3D. So if I draw the domain, it should be something like this. This is the x-axis, this is the y-axis, this is the z-axis. Now we have a domain, which is a rectangular box. This is our domain. This is our domain B. Okay, now your x values goes from A to B, y values goes from C to D, and C values goes from E to F. Okay. In this particular case, the triple integral of f dv over the domain B equals to triple integral of f. Now this volume element dv can be written like this: dc dy dx. It is a volume element. Now if I use this order of integration, then the limits of this inner integral should be E to F, and the limits of the middle integral should be C to D, and finally the limits of the outer integral should be A to B. Okay. Now of course you can change this order of integration. If you change this order of integration, then you need to change the limits of these three integrals. As an example, the same integral can be written like this. Let's say we integrate with respect to the y variable first, and then with respect to the c variable, and finally with respect to the x variable. Okay, so now the limits of this inner integral should be c to d. Limits of the middle integral should be e to f, and limits of the outer integral are a to b. So here you can have 4 more possibilities. But you can use any order of integration and you should get the same answer. Okay, let's consider an example. Let's say we want to evaluate the triple integral one dv over a domain B, where the domain B is a rectangular box such that B contains x, y, and z coordinates x goes from 0 to 1, y goes from -1 to 2, and z goes from 0 to 3. Okay. This case, triple integral of 1 dv over the domain B equals to, okay, now in this particular case your function f is 1, and dv equals to, so I'm going to consider dc, dy, and dx. So now the limit should be 0 to 3, -1 to 2, and 0 to 1. Okay, so my first variable of integration is c. If you integrate if you integrate 1 with respect to the c variable, you should get c. Limits are 0 and 3. Apply the limits, you will get 3 dy dx. Okay, now you can pull out 3, and we have 1 dy dx. So if we integrate 1 with respect to the y variable, you should get y. Apply the upper limit and the lower limit. Have 2 minus -1 dx. Okay, 2 minus -1 becomes 2 plus 1. 2 plus 1 is 3. Now we can pull out 3. Your integrand is 1. If you integrate 1 with respect to the x variable, you will get x. Lower limit is 0, upper limit is 1. then if you apply the limits, you will get 1 minus 0. So 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 1 is 9. Okay, so this is the answer. But in this particular case, we got the triple integral of 1 dv over the domain B equals to 9. Now this 9 is the volume of this. 9 is the volume of this box. As you can see, this length is 1, this length is 3 units, and this height is 3 units. So basically you have a box with, let's see, this height is 3, this width is 3, because your y values goes from -1 to 1, therefore its length should be 3 units, and this width is 1 unit. 3 times 3 is 9, 9 times 1 is 9. Okay, so with this I finished the first example, and